Thanks for joining us for this episode of Coffee with Closers, where business leaders share insights on how to build businesses from the ground up and best practices for innovating in their industry.
Hey Matt, thanks for joining me. Certainly
Thanks
appreciate
for
the
having
opportunity.
me.
So I know you're in the corporate law space. You've been in the larger corporations, and then you went on to start your own firm quite some time ago. For the audience that really don't know about you, can you share a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so the first thing I always tell people is I'm a triplet, and I have two sisters, and all three of us are lawyers. And my sisters and I went to high school, college, and law school together for very different reasons. I always tell people that it's the same destination, different paths. We did not plan on this. We didn't think that this was going to happen, and it did happen. And so once we came out of law school, my sister Catherine always knew that she wanted to work in my dad's law firm. My dad's chairman of a mid-size commercial law firm here in the city, and so she went that direction. After tinkering around at a few little other law firm shops, my sister Christina had started her own law firm, and I was still looking for the right fit. And I was helping her with her practice because when you go to law school, they teach you to think like a lawyer, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. So you don't learn how to run a law practice, run a business, get clients, do a lot of the work. And so it was a lot of navigating through the dark for the first few years. So I started with my sister back in 2011. The first 2 years we were practicing was we primarily focused on civil litigation, so we took on a bunch of different court cases that we could get that involved labor and employment, some business litigation, some workers' comp litigation, guardianship and probate, and we really found that we weren't fulfilled doing much of that work. And we talked to each other after about 2 years. We both kind of knew we weren't happy, and my sister said to me, well, what do you propose? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I have this idea. We enjoy the business litigation. We do like representing business owners and businesses in the event that there's a contract that's been breached or they want to enforce their rights, if there's a fraud or breach of fiduciary duty, shareholder disputes, partner disputes. So how do we get more of that work? Well, what if we start doing transactional work for small businesses? And we form this partnership with them, and if in the event that they get sued or want to sue somebody, they'll just come to us. And my sister said, that sounds great, but we need to learn how to do the corporate transactional work. And I said, well, one great quality of, I think, of good attorneys is they're resourceful. And so we sort of embarked on this journey about 6 years ago to start doing the corporate work. And it started small and slowly evolved into what it is today, where I tell people the simplest way to describe what we do is we are outside general counsel for a number of small and medium-sized companies. So we're the legal arm of our clients' businesses. And I personally serve as the bookends of our practice. So I do a lot of startup work with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners where I assist them with they come up to me with a concept or a service that they'd like to provide, a product they're creating, something they need to protect, and we assist them creating the entity, structuring the equity, dealing with the corporate documents, and then we get them started with a lot of their commercial agreements that they need, protecting their intellectual property. They will typically, as they grow, call us and say, hey, I'd like to bring on some employees or some contractors. I'd like to do that responsibly. We help them mitigate risk. And then on the back end, we do a lot of complex transactional work and M&A work. So my clients that like to serially purchase or sell companies, we do a lot of that. When clients are either offering equity to new members or shareholders or taking it back, we do those types of transactions. And about a third of our practice is still focused on business litigation. And one thing I tell a lot of folks is we offer a unique perspective because I've been told for 8 years or 10 years, you can't do both. You can't do transactional work and you can't do litigation at the same time. And I disagree with that notion because I personally think our experience in the courtroom informs our knowledge on the front end on how to properly draft a lot of agreements, because we've seen the end result of certain types of ambiguous language in a contract, things not being memorialized properly or done the correct way, and then you see the end result in court. We offer that unique perspective. So I think that fairly summarizes what we do.
Yeah, appreciate that overview. Obviously, you're working with you have two siblings that are in the law, but you have one sister that you're doing the practice together. So what is the dynamics like, working with your sister?
So it can be surprising for people if they come into our office, because we are incredibly blunt with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I personally really like having the ability to be explicit in my communication with my partner, where I don't have to beat around the bush. There's no resentment that builds up. It's not like if my sister's frustrated or I'm frustrated and something happens and I go home and I think about it and rue about it. Doesn't happen. But we work really well together. Funny enough, we took one of those Strength Finders tests a few years ago, and the results came back and showed us that we are ideal work partners, our personality types. And I thought that was kind of funny, because I've always felt that way. And there's this implicit level of trust with my sister where we don't need to focus on the politics of the business. We can focus on doing the good work and really enjoying what we do together, because we don't have to worry about that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome to hear. Sometimes the opposite is what I've heard when two siblings go into work, or even just family members doing business together often doesn't really end well because of
Absolutely.
How it goes. Yeah.
I could tell you I have some family-owned business clients, and it does not always work out well.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you said the law firm didn't prepare you for the business world. They prepared you for how to be a good attorney. So what are some of the lessons you've learned trying to build a practice of your own? Now you said it's about 8 years that you're running it. Like, what are some of the key lessons you've learned building a business?
So the first 3 years were difficult, because until you understand the importance of developing relationships with people that are authentic and genuine, I always wondered, do I need to be more assertive and aggressive in getting business? Do I need to demonstrate expertise or something more efficiently? And I came to the realization that it's pretty simple. Number one, you get what you give in life. And I think people see through a lot of facades. What I commonly preach to prospective clients and clients is, money is a necessity in our lives. It's not a value. It's not something that we need it to live, but it's not something I strive for. I don't just want to make money. I want to be fulfilled in my life while I'm here. And what's important to me in life is how I spend my time. And so whether that's at home with my kids and my wife and my dog, or at work, I want to do good work for good people and enjoy that. And so what I realized was, the more helpful and resourceful you are to others, it comes back tenfold. So when I first started, I was wondering, how can I get X, Y, or Z, instead of framing it a different way, and what can I give to others, and how can I be helpful? Because when you do what you love and you do it with the people you care about, the money will follow, and you'll start to get really genuine referrals and introductions from people, because they really have developed a deep relationship with you. They care about you, they trust you, and they like you, and they want other people to share in that experience. I think first and foremost, I started looking about 3 years in at, when I'm running the business, what tasks throughout my day are generating revenue so that I can continue to operate and grow. So I looked at everything I'm doing. Okay, I'm calendaring things, I'm emailing people, whether it's substantive work or setting up meetings and coffees and drinks and lunches. I'm doing our books, I'm making sure our bills are paid, I'm making sure our stuff is organized in the office, and then I'm also having to go out and get work, and I'm having to do the actual work. So I prioritized what needs to be done in this day to generate revenue. Number one, get more business in the door. Number two, do the work that comes in. Everything else can be delegated or automated or in some way done more efficiently, because as attorneys, our inventory is our time. I realized I'm not selling a product. I'm not selling something I can just duplicate over and over again quickly. I'm literally constrained by the amount of time I have in my day, and that's the maximum capacity I have to operate and generate revenue. So how am I using my time is probably really important. So I think once I started framing my operating model through that lens, I started to see some pretty major changes in the way that we were operating and growing.
Makes sense. So you talked a little bit about, obviously the only asset that you have, right? Like the only thing you're able to monetize is your time. Mm-hmm. So your time is extremely valuable, right? So you have the demands of running an operation, being in the court, doing some transactional deals with the other clients and all sorts of stuff that you have to attend to. Still, you have to take care of your office. So what are some of your productivity hacks that you implemented to keep you extremely efficient?
I have a bunch of software and automation tools that I use to save me time. Where I'll never forget the first time I used an email plugin, because we operate through G Suite, and there's a plugin called Mixmax. And it allows you to do a number of different things. It allows you to generate, calendars and invites very quickly. You can pre-draft and save emails as templates, and you can create sequences of emails. And once I started to learn how to use that right, I realized it saves me an enormous amount of time each day to kind of figure out a time in my day where I can get all of my emailing done, and I can schedule emails to go out at different times, or I can create these automatic responses or sequences that are genuine. It's not like I have a boilerplate for everyone for the same situation, but it at least gives me a head start on drafting something, and that might save me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, collectively through the day, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. Once we upgraded our phone software, for instance, it's embarrassing that 2 or 3 years in, we had an old-fashioned, phone line set in our office. So if I worked from home, I'd have to call into my office line several times a day and check my voicemail, like I was living in the early 90s or mm-hmm. something. And I realized it took about 20 minutes of my day to check my messages every day if I worked from home. So we upgraded to a VoIP system that I get forwarded to my cell phone, and I get the visual voicemails. I mean, something as simple as that saves me 20 to 30 minutes a day. And it also allows me the flexibility. If I choose to work from home or somewhere else, I'm not constrained to my office and tethered right there. And then we have a number of software licenses for practice management software, which greatly improves our ability to bill and invoice clients, where I can tell you a few years ago, before we implemented some of this software, our invoice day was an entire day. And it would take me all day to generate, these invoices where I'd go over my time and make sure everything's accurate and send them out. Where now, because our software's so efficient, it takes me maybe an hour. In where I'm at now versus a few years ago, I'm doing a much larger volume of business. So it says something that I have that process. And then lastly, in the substantive space, we use artificial intelligence software to a degree in some of our transactional work and our litigation work, where it literally replaces physical people in our space, because we give the software search parameters and we tell it what we're looking for. In a batch of 1,000 documents, I'm looking for 2 specific things. And I tell it what I'm looking for. I start to review maybe 5 or 10 pages, and the system learns what I'm doing, and then within a minute says, here's what you're looking for, and it doesn't miss. Not only is it helpful to us, but our clients, because I tell them, do you want me to sit in a conference room for 40 hours and go through all of this? Or would you rather, for a small fee, pay this software to do it within 2 minutes after you upload it? And the answer is always the same.
That's crazy. So technology has really enabled your firm to do a better job and also save clients money, because you're not having to bill for hours that human beings are wasting just doing, Not that time is wasted, but
well, it's
more
efficiency.
efficient. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I tell clients, my goal is when I work with clients, it's not about maximizing the revenue with them. It's about doing as much as I can for them. Our tagline for our firm is literally accessible and dependable. So I try to be as accessible as I can to clients and dependable in the sense that we're here for you. Our motive is to help you operate as efficiently as possible and as without any risk or as little risk as possible, and not get in your way. And if we can do that by saving you funds, by not having to do things the old-fashioned way, and the billable time is shorter because it's literally being done instantaneously or in a much more efficient way.
So obviously our audience is business owners and business leaders, right? So you are in that business space doing a lot of transactional laws and litigations. You had experience in all of those areas. What are some of the common mistakes that you've seen business leaders do when it comes to legal issues or contracts and things of that nature?
So a big mistake I see is a lot of business owners see legal counsel as a necessary cost of doing business, and they're like, I'd rather not call the attorney if I don't have to. I want to save the funds. I always tell clients I never assume the worst, I just plan for it. And I can't assist you in planning for these things if I don't know what you're doing. And so part of it is a lot of times clients or business owners will, instead of first calling the attorney and saying, hey, here's what I'm thinking of doing, what's your thoughts? Which may or may not cost anything. They go ahead and do it and then call the attorney and say, by the way, I brought on a partner. I always tell business owners, you're really good at what you do. You don't know what you don't know. And so you may be exposing yourself to risk or doing something contrary to a statute or a law, and you wouldn't even know it. But this is what we do, and we can assist you in that arena. And so whether it's bringing on partners responsibly, whether it's entering into a contract that's drafted well, clearly and concisely so that both parties know exactly what their roles and responsibilities are and nobody's confused about any portion of that. Whether it's structuring something the proper corporate way or making sure that you're exempt or properly registering a security. Those things all have consequences if not done properly. And our goal is to allow our clients to do these things well and not get in trouble later.
Yeah, it's almost like, going to see a doctor. Like, people mostly wait until they have a problem. But oftentimes, having some sort of a routine check to check their blood and find out early on if there's any issues and detecting it and then addressing it, right? So I think not necessarily it's an exact same analogy, but
it will cost a lot more money later to fix something that could have been prevented in the first place for a smaller amount of money. I generally explain to clients you can spend a little bit now to do this the right way, or you can assume the risk, and if something goes bad, which I've seen it several times because unfortunately in my line of work I do deal with a lot of issues that have happened and now we have to fix them. It always will cost more money, and it's not always at that point that everyone's reasonable. And so you can't just shut something down and end it quickly. Sometimes it's out of your control. You can only control yourself. And if the other side has done something or is unreasonable, now you're spending money just to try to stop the bleeding.
Most certainly. So I know, when you're an attorney, you said you're doing a lot of things in terms of like I'm having to go get the customer and then also do the service and then then making sure everything is operationally running smoothly. So as far as like winning customers, and you said you do great customer service, and then people will genuinely refer you business. So if someone in the law space and doing private practice and it's not a big firm. So what are some of the things that really worked well for you outside of just getting referral to get new customers?
Well, I should say too, doing good work for good clients is a part of it. And it's a very helpful part because who can vouch for you better than the people you've done work for before? And I always say this as well. It's not about it's not about the substance of the work as much as it is about the service behind it. How you're providing the service to the client. Are you responsive? Are you listening to the client? Are you creative in the way that you work with them? Are you concerned about making their experience, as positive as possible? That aside, it's important, I think, the way I describe it is to get more customers and clients, you need to be on people's radars. And so what that means is a little bit different for different industries and different people, and the way that you stay on people's radars is different for certain types of industries and businesses. It's gently reminding people that I exist and that I'm here and that I do this type of work. And it's delicate because you don't want to be too persistent where you're bugging people. So whether that's done in person, through emails, through social media, any way that we can generate some sort of radar mechanism that allows people, we're put in front of somebody in a genuine way. Because corporate law is not the same as personal injury or workers' comp, where you can put a bunch of paid ads out and people will slip and fall or get hurt, and they'll think of the firms that they see the most. Corporate law is a little bit different, so it's not as effective to do that. However, what we've found as being effective is we have a client digest we send out quarterly to our clients. It contains useful information, things we've come across, or as we're practicing in that quarter, something we're seeing a lot of issues, same mistakes, things we can help our clients prevent. We send out other types of email campaigns to our networks occasionally, and we try to keep them simple and not inundate people's inboxes with them. But also we have like an Instagram for our law firm, and it's much more personal. It's so that people can get to know us behind the firm, get to know our families, our pets, that sort of thing. And I think it helps people connect with us a little bit more.
Prove that you're a human being at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I think, again, the most important thing is the relationship. And so if people get to know you and they like you and they want to keep working with you or they connect with you, I know a lot of very good lawyers, and I tell people all the time, there's 80,000 lawyers in this state. We all do the same thing. It's really going to come down to who do you like, who do you trust, who do you want to work with.
Most certainly. How much of your philosophy of business and how you're doing a lot of how you approach your business is a factor of your faith versus, hey, this is just who I am?
I think it's important. As growing up, I grew up with a strong faith background, and I've continued that, and I'm currently instilling that in my children. And my philosophy in life is I want to do good, and I want to be impactful for people. And it's not about me. It's not about me feeling good at the end of the day. It's about doing good, honest, faithful work for people, and carrying out that mission that I believe in, that it's treating others well and really spending my time on this earth in a productive way. One
of the questions that I've been asking some of my guests is, like, if you had two options, one, $1 million, or another one, being coached or counseled by Warren Buffett, which would you choose?
It's a really hard question. I'd love that $1 million right now. But something tells me the latter would be better, because something I've learned also on the business front is you have to be willing to adapt and change your habits in order to be successful, because we all have a diverse set of habits that we employ throughout the day, throughout the week, the month, and some of those habits can be damaging. How we spend money, how we save money, how we spend our time, how we don't spend our time. And if you work with somebody like that and you're receptive and open and willing to change your habits, I think I could probably earn more than $1 million through that endeavor.
Any parting wisdom for our audience?
Find what you really love in life and really focus on what's important to you. An article I read years ago, written by an author named Paul Graham, he talked about life being short. And not in the sense that tomorrow's it. in the sense that time moves forward and you can't go back. You can look back, but you can't go back. So as you move through your day, week, month, hour, that time is never coming back. So in the context of children, for instance, you get 52 weekends with your 2-year-old. That's it. You never get another weekend with them as a 2-year-old, so how are you going to spend your time? And the article doesn't advocate you to spend all your time with your kids or all your time at work. It's simply, the message is spend your time as if it moves forward and be aware of that. And I think that really is important for business owners, because looking back and saying, I've been operating for 10 years, but we really have only been cooking for 2. What were you doing in those first 8 years? Be aware moving forward that whatever you're doing in the last 2 years, keep doing that, or continue to want to evolve and grow so that you can continue to do better, and don't fall back into some of those old habits, I guess.
Makes sense. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm glad I was able to do this.
Awesome.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by One IMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.